I really think the carnivore, the meat-based, animal-based diet is what gave me the strength to get through the chemo and then get through the surgery.
Doug, how did you find carnivore?
Well, it was kind of in a roundabout way. Um, it was a slow progression into carnivore. Um, Initially, I quit work as a respiratory therapist to take care of my mother, and she passed away in 17. And I'd always thought I'd go back to work, but to tell you the truth, I was so fat. I was 268 pounds. I just did not have the energy to go back to work. And I got into juice fasting, and um, did a lot of vegetables. And then I'd substitute with some kind of a paleo keto thing. And I managed to take off all the weight. And mainly it was fasting. And that's about when I started to listen to Dr. Fung, Jason Fung, about fasting. So, boy, I tell you, I was feeling great. And I really wasn't quite, carnivore yet. I was eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of meat too, but I wasn't quite carnivore yet. And yeah, and there was some discussion about insulin resistance because I was still doing some carbs, so I really hadn't until I started on the whole weight loss fasting thing. I was doing carbs, so that was so it started to dawn on me that carbs were kind of the evil thing. So I really started cutting back on the carbs. Eventually, I was less than 20 carbs a day, grams of carbs a day, and so, but I had this horrible problem. I was up having to urinate all night. And they said, oh, I went to the doctor and they were like, oh, yeah, you've done good losing all the weight, but, you've got an enlarged prostate and that's probably, so I went and saw a urologist and he did some tests, the residual volume. I was okay on the residual volume and all that. And that's just right about when the whole COVID thing came out. And being a retired respiratory therapist, I thought it was insane people wearing masks. Because the masks, I've read right on the package, it says not effective for COVID-19. So I was just like, and then I became ultra paranoid. I thought people, oh my God, these people are trying to jab me. They're trying to kill me. I did not trust mRNA vaccines because I remember in the 70s it was supposed to cure sickle cell anemia and people still had it. So I was paranoid as hell. I'll get out. And, I was a peeing. And as things progressed, in November of 21, I've been kind of slow walked because, I refused the jab and I was non-compliant. But I was slow walked. And finally, they came out with the diagnosis in November of 21 that I had muscle invasive bladder cancer. And I went, oh, hmm. But the interesting thing was they also found a tumor on my right adrenal. Well, oh, ding, ding, ding. My brain was just on overdrive. I was paranoid. And what it was, sugar, salt, sex with your adrenal. Sugar, um, it puts out cortisol and it raises your sugar level. And salt is your epinephrine. And then, of course, sex hormones, testosterone and for women and not so much for men. Our testicles take care of that. But, I had all these symptoms of paranoia and climbing the wall and going crazy. But guess what? The important thing was the cancer, right? So they kind of put that whole tumor thing on the back burner. Well, so by April of 22, I had my bladder removed. And I had a great surgeon, Dr. Gilbert, over at Moffitt in Tampa. He removed my bladder and rewired me. Oh, man, I tell you, I don't have to worry about that bladder anymore. I have a small herniation and I urinate through that into a little bag. And I tell you, my life's fine now. I'm not having to get up and go urinate all night. I just hook it up to a bag and I'm sleeping 8, 9 hours a day now. But anyway, make a long story short, um, that surgery, um, it kind of took care of my cancer. And of course, before I had the surgery, I got some of the nastiest chemo drugs you've ever seen. I got 8 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I got 4 of the nastiest drugs known to man. And that's kind of when I developed Carnivore. Because what I'd do is I'd fast for 3 days before my chemotherapy. And then I was so sick after the chemotherapy, I couldn't eat for 3 days. And what I did was I kind of switched over to, I'd eat liver and I'd eat, grass-fed hamburger. I'd eat, my daughter would bring me a filet mignon every Sunday. And man, I tell you, and fish. And I did protein drinks. So over a period of time, I really think the carnivore, the meat-based, animal-based diet is what gave me the strength to get through the chemo and then get through the surgery. It's tough surgery. I mean, yeah.
So that was in 22.
Correct, in 22. And then on Valentine's Day, on February the 23rd, after I kept flunking the suppression test for the adrenal, they do a test where they give you some cortisol and it suppresses your cortisol that would come out of your brain. And then if you still have high levels of cortisol, they know that the adrenal is rogue and it's putting out cortisol. So I'd flunked the suppression test for this like second time or something. So I went over in Tampa again. This great doctor named Dr. Chanling, #1 adrenal surgeon in the world. He yanked my adrenal out, and I think I've regrown it, mainly because I'm carnivore. But see, that's the problem with medicine now. You don't get these answers from people. Now, the guy, when he yanked my adrenal, he said I was loaded with visceral fat. Even though I lost the weight, I still had a lot of visceral fat. But see, now that my cortisol is normal, I think my visceral fat's going away. I just feel different. Of course, I'm not having cortisol rushing out into me. The paranoia is not there anymore. I had to add exercise. Believe it or not, when you got an adrenal tumor, you end up, I think a lot of my psych problems were the adrenal tumor, but then the sign of the times still did help. But
So just on that, like there was, you said paranoia, so there were a lot of mental issues as a result of
well,
the adrenal problem.
fright, flight. Imagine, the wild beasts are coming after you. Well, imagine that feeling just happening. And that's what would happen. All of a sudden I'd just get super nervous and I wouldn't know why. And of course, if I get into a stressful situation and the stresses start coming, sometimes I swear I had the strength of 10 people because I could just feel the power in me. And maybe it was the metanephrines. That's the thing. Metanephrines release real quick and your body metabolizes them. So they measured my metanephrines and they were normal. But yeah, who knows? But I tell you, my whole life changed. I had, it's very strange. I always had this feeling that would overcome me and I could deal with it and I'd feel it in my body. But then to have that psychological feeling over and then not have your body respond that way. So what I did was I added exercise. I added resistance exercise. I walk maybe 3 miles, and then I do some evergreen exercise machines. I do 10 reps of sets on the machine. So it's just resistance exercise, and it's enough to take off the edge. And boy, I'm just like, and the thing is, when you have cancer, you just don't have energy. So everything around me had went to hell, and now I have the energy to build it back. I mean, I'll eat a pound of grass-fed hamburger. I'll eat maybe 3 eggs. I'll eat a half a pound of cheese. I'll eat a pound of yogurt. I love my plain Greek yogurt. Um, I don't know, probably a few other things. Fish. I don't personally care for fish. My body loves fish, and fish loves me. But I just don't really care for it. But I'll eat it like, maybe some safe catch tuna, or some salmon, or even a can of sardines. I might share with a neighborhood cat. I don't know. But I mean, I really think that a lot of it is, you just gotta kind of listen to your body. And my body's kind of telling me what I need and what I should eat these days. Uh, I think the big problem people have is they treat eating as entertainment, and it's not entertainment. It shouldn't be entertainment. I mean, a lot of things can be entertainment. I mean, you can overdo a lot of things. I mean, sex is entertainment, but don't be surprised if you end up with a venereal disease. I mean, so if you're going to eat to entertain yourself, don't be surprised if you end up with chronic health problems, because the science is just unbelievable. They're looking into things. They're taking pictures of biochemical reactions going on in live time. I mean, they're understanding all this. If you think you can eat this processed stuff and get away with it, wrong. I know it's fun.
What was your diet like before?
Oh, sad. Standard American diet. I mean, probably even to excess. I mean, a couple Whoppers and maybe an extra large fry and a 6-pack of beer. I mean, and then I was okay, you know? So it was
Sounds
just,
like my diet.
yeah, okay. But unlike you, I lost my upper teeth. I've got a denture. That's one of the reasons that I took a pause from the medical end of it. I quit going to my doctor because I couldn't afford to get my teeth fixed and pay for her insurance. So what I did was I went ahead and went with the dentist and got all my upper teeth pulled and got a set of dentures, and then my leukocytosis went away. So I knew that's what the reason my white blood cell count was sky high with her, was because I had such a high amount of bacteria. I had 2 abscesses in the top part of my mouth, and I really couldn't afford the dentist. I mean, implants and all that. So I had them pulled. Best move I ever made. I mean, my bottom teeth are great because I went carnivore, and any problem I have with, I don't have any bleeding gums, or all my bottom teeth are fine. So at least maybe someday I'll get upper implants. But yeah.
And so, um, you said that they took your adrenal gland out, but you believe it's regrown. What
Well,
what makes you
I
feel
think
that
what
way?
Dr. Chanley, when he took it out, he left a sliver, and that's what they do so it can regrow. Now, fast forward to 6 months later, when I'm at Moffitt getting checked for cancer again, they do a CAT scan, and the radiologist says no tumors in the adrenals. So all of a sudden, that adrenal must have grown back, unless the radiologist misread it. right? But no, I think I regrew my adrenal. I'd be willing to bet on it. But that's the other thing. You think these medical people are going to see things and view things. And I specifically asked the practitioner, I said, well, did I grow my adrenal back? She said, well, I wouldn't know that. Well, for some reason, I thought they might look at my CAT scan, right? But they didn't. All they did was read the report, which I read. So, and and the other thing is, okay, with my lab work, I just had lab work. My glucose was a hair high. My blood glucose, it was 106. And, America, 99 is considered normal, below. But anyway, mine was 106 with a normal A1C. And then on top of that, my bun was elevated. Well, remember, I'm eating about 180 grams of protein a day. So I tried to so I said to the practitioner, I said, well, I'm eating 180 grams of protein a day, and I stay usually at least below 50 grams of carbs. I said, usually I'm less than 20 even, but I'll go up to 50 grams of carbs. And right then she said, oh, you have to have carbs. I said, what? She said, well, you have to have carbs for brain function. I said, well, not extraneous carbs. Yes, you do. I said, well, have you ever heard of glyconeogenesis? And all of a sudden she slammed her laptop and left. I was like, oh boy. Okay, I said the wrong thing. But my question was protein. It was about protein. I think that's the reason my bun's elevated, is because my liver has to process that protein. Now, my liver enzymes were AST and ALT were 10, which is real low normal. So I don't have any liver problems, but I think that's a normal bun for me. I don't know. Maybe anybody else have an elevated bun?
I think the problem with all these things is, the averages that they work out are all based on a sick population. So
Right.
when you go in there and they say, "Oh, this is your numbers are so elevated," but they're comparing two different things.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to argue with her about carbs because I know the answer to that. And I know people don't want to give up carbs. So thinking that they have to have them really helps them, I guess, when they're eating the pie or whatever. But, so many of these professionals, they're not really, I understand they're human. Yeah. So I understand that. We're all human, but they need to open their minds. I mean, you have more knowledge than most of the physicians. I know that for a fact, just from talking to you. I mean, listening to your shows and where you steer people.
I think the thing is, though, people like myself, yourself, and others in this space, we haven't paid, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a degree, or millions of dollars for a degree. And so it's easier for us to change. Like the doctor that's paid $1 million for their degree, they're like super threatened by this, right?
Right. Well, I mean, what is their monetary model if they're not pushing drugs? I mean, how? I mean, telling their patients to eat steak. How are they going to make money out that? So I understand. You spend your whole life going to school, and then you finally get out, and you're burdened with so much debt, and then you got to get them coming. I mean, Dr. Baker pointed it out. I mean, right then, all the people in his group hated him because he was curing people, and they weren't not putting money in their pocket. So I don't get the word out, but geez, they're going to have to. Now, what's the interesting thing to me is where we could make some progress with these insurance companies. because they can make these doctors lock in and start paying attention to nutrition. So if you got a patient that's a diabetic, wouldn't it be a lot cheaper for them to cut their carbs than send them to surgery to have their legs amputated? So the insurance companies actually, I could see where they, Revero, I could see where they could go that kind of a route. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a,
Eh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, the health insurance companies don't wanna be paying out money. So, wouldn't it be in their interest to make sure that people are as healthy as possible? But I don't know, are they getting some kind of kickback in some other way from the medications or from hospitals?
my insurance company, they shelled out some bucks for my surgeries and all that kind of stuff, and the chemo and blah blah blah. Well, they kind of set me up with a good navigator program to navigate through all this stuff, and right now I think they've got a chance to make a decent profit off of me. I've got some urinary supplies I get from them, but um, I mean, my blood work's normal. I'm not on any medications, so they're not shelling out money to pharmacies, and um, I'm healthy, and I'm communicating with them some, and a matter of fact, I've got an appointment with one of their physicians that's going to come to my house on the 1st of August, and hopefully, maybe I can get something going. And they'll see I'm really healthy. I mean, for 68 and just had all this complicated surgery, I mean, I'm off the charts. I feel good.
Yeah. So, on that, like, from the April, I mean, this is more than 2 years now. What other health benefits have you seen?
Well, any psych issues I have have evaporated. Um, my energy levels back. It's not perfect yet, but I just the normalcy is what amazes me. I mean, I've had a few health issues like kidney stones. Like I've been throwing kidney stones like right and left, and it's kind of cool because they come through my urostomy. So I mean, they still hurt because they come from your kidneys, and they got to travel down, your ureters. So it's not a lot of fun, but it's uh, it's. I think I'm dumping oxalates. Um, the when they do the CAT scans and stuff, they showed that I had some coronary arteries calcification. I suspect that I'm moving calcium around. Um, I would, because I am concentrating on K2. I eat a lot of eggs. Um, Cheese, Munster cheese, and stuff like that. And I feel like I am mobilizing some of these calcium deposits. I had a murmur that has disappeared. So that was that click, click, click from the murmur, I think was a calcium thing, and that's disappeared. Now that was verified with an ultrasound. Um, they worked that up, and I definitely had. But these calcium deposits and stuff, I think they're moving around. I definitely had some oxalate. Um, I used to have a bump on my left hand, and that kind of went away. So I think that was probably an oxalate deposit. And I mean, I'm kind of a lay person because my field was respiratory. I ran intra-aortic balloon pumps, and so I crossed over into a lot of the cardiac and stuff like that. But the reality is, this stuff's just it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. I mean, where you think, I mean, like I said, I don't know if I really am moving calcium around, and that's part of the problem. I'd like for a radiologist to say, "Oh no, your calcium deposits are fine," or even a physician to say, "Oh no, we need to repeat that echocardiogram," or but nobody ever does. I mean, that's what I'm trying to work out with my insurance company on August. They say it's going to be a practitioner or a physician, so maybe that's it. We just need to push from this end.
Yeah. So, how are people around you reacting to this when they see you eating just meat and eggs?
Um, they're they're not very cooperative at all. It blows my mind that I could be such a shining example, and they're actually. I think my daughter has Hashimoto's disease. Um, I I love my kids to death, and yeah, they'll tell you that they're listening to me, but they're not really. I mean, they still do the processed food and they still eat to entertain themselves. And I just wish I could step into their bodies for just a minute, eat the way I do, and see how good they'd feel. But you can't. It's just frustrating. But I love my kids. So.
Yeah. Have you had anyone say to you, "Look, you're looking really good, Doug. How do I do this?"
No. Uh, I wish that maybe it's just my looks. I don't know. But yeah, I just I think they would say that, but I don't know. It's just I wear very baggy clothes, so I look a little heavier than I really am. But that's to cover up the urostomy and all that.
So, regarding the weight, in 2017, you said you were 268 pounds. What are you down to now?
180. Well, I got on the scale this morning. I was 182. I started eating around noon. I think I'm up to 186. I'll eat like 4 pounds of food.
And is that just once a day?
I'll go noon to 6. If I'm hungry at 11, I'll start eating at 11. And I pretty much just eat. I mean, if I'm hungry at 8, I'll eat at 8. You know, I just kind of go by when I'm hungry. You know how it is. Eventually, the food just doesn't taste good, and you just quit eating it. So, I mean, it's such a nice way to live.
Right.
I mean, and for example, I got some grass-fed hot dogs. You know, from beef hot dogs. Chop them up. Throw now. See, I do a little bit of plants. Like I like sauerkraut, but see, I try to get animal based. Like sauerkraut is ran through bacteria and stuff, so I figure it's kind of animal processed. So I throw down a blanket of some sauerkraut, throw the dogs on it, and then throw on 3 or 4 slices of Munster cheese and a little bit of mustard. I mean, oh, hi. But I don't think you got to be that strict about this stuff. And then I'll throw it in and nuke it, and yeah, it's delicious.
I mean, this way of eating, like you're eating more of an intuitive style of eating. It's just when you're hungry, you eat. And when you're done, you just finish eating. And it's just so nice to be able to eat this way and feel satisfied and not always be tied to the kitchen, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's so liberating. Yeah, like I'll do my exercises and stuff fasting. So, usually by noon when I'm ready to start eating and stuff, I'm all done with that and everything's wrapped up. And I'm ready to just enjoy the day and get a bite to eat, and then go out and maybe do a project. Like I painted the wall the other day. Um, I have the energy to do stuff. Um, I wish I was a little quicker. A little bit on the slower side these days. Since when I was a young man, I was a little quicker and stuff. But yeah, so but I feel good. I really have not felt this good. I'd have to go back to my 30s. See, this is the thing, though. I think I've had this adrenal tumor my whole life, and what really snapped me out of it was dropping the weight. See, that's the other thing. I think you need to go carnivore just to find out what your metabolic dysfunction is. Like my big metabolic dysfunction, I think, was hormonal. I was putting out cortisol, and it told my bladder, "Oh, these are friendly cells here. Oh, leave them alone." Because the bladder's function is to get rid of poison. You want to get rid of toxins through your bladder. Well, that was my bane. So, I mean, okay, so this brilliant surgeon replumbed me. And then this other surgeon yanked off my adrenal. And I don't know, I did not succumb. And I think it was because I went carnivore. I mean, like I said, I'm 95, I bet I'm 95% carnivore these days. I mean, I don't have it's not like, I ban vegetables. I mean, my last name's Flora, so I can't hate plants, but I know they're trying to kill us.
That energy that you've got, you're out painting the wall and stuff. Like 5 years ago, would that have just been, I'll paint it tomorrow. I'll paint it tomorrow. And
Yeah, it was like, there was just no energy. It was just, well, what I'd planned on doing was going back to work. And for a long time, I kept my registry. I kept my registration. And then I just did not have the energy. And that was when they diagnosed my cancer. So the cancer, I don't know. I don't know how long that cancer was going on. Remember, I was sleeping. Well, with the adrenal tumor, I thought I was Superman. I thought I didn't need more than 4 hours of sleep a night. Hell, I'd sleep 2 hours, get up and pee, and come back to bed and sleep 2 hours, and then I was up. So it was like, whoa, I must be Superman. And then I saw the adrenal tumor and thought, wow, I'm not Superman. And then the cancer, and but the thing was that the adrenal was the thing that was driving it all. And now that that adrenal tumor is gone, I'm just like, I don't know, how long will I live? I think they lied to us. You don't have to get old and die.
yeah, it does feel like even though you are getting older, it feels like you are maybe you're reversing in age as far as the energy levels and stuff like that, right?
Well, just bones and remember, I had Cushing syndrome from that adrenal tumor because I was pouring out cortisol all the time. So I had, sarcopenia, I had osteopenia. So my bones were losing, calcium, and my muscles, my biceps were wasting away to nothing. And now, I don't know, I still got a bicep now. I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, it's came back. See, so my 180 grams of protein a day, I'm actually putting on muscle mass. That's what I'm saying. Even though my weight's the same, I think I'm losing visceral fat. Now, I won't know that until I get the next CAT scan, but I'm going to have to put a bug in the radiologist's ear and say, hey, I'm going to see him at 6 a.m., I think in September. I'm going to say, yeah, I want to know about my visceral fat. And did I grow back my adrenal? I don't know. You got to grab them, I guess, shake them.
Mm.
I think you can get answers from these guys, but yeah, I think you got to confront them and say, "Give me answers." They can make a lot of money to give you answers.
I found that with my doctor as well, you know, like if I've had a blood test and he's banging on about the LDL or whatever, you know, he knows stuff, but unless I push him and ask questions, he won't say anything, you know? Like if I say, "Okay, well, how about my triglycerides?" And then he'll go, "Oh, yeah, the triglycerides are good." And it's like, "Yeah, well, why didn't you say that as well? Why is it just LDL, LDL, LDL?" You know, they keep very, it's almost like it's kind of like someone who knows too much but won't share it because then they give the power away or something.
See, that's the thing. I think they're just too busy uh, trying to, make ends meet. Because, the thing about being rich is you have to work hard to stay rich. You can't just get rich and say, oh, okay, I'm going to goof off now if you want to stay rich. Me, I'm lucky, I'm poor. I don't have to worry about that.
It can be very confronting for doctors as well when the I guess the thing they've been saying to their patients for 20, 30 years, suddenly you go in there and say, "Hang on, no, 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 I don't think so. This is blah blah blah." And I think that's kind of, it's like telling someone you can't eat carbs anymore. You know, it's very confronting.
Right, right. Well, it was like I was telling the practitioner this latest visit to the doctor. I was telling the practitioner about my run in with the practitioner at the cancer place. And she said she was very uncomfortable. Oh, she said, well, you're wanting me to make an opinion about another healthcare professional. I said, no, I'm not. I wanted you to acknowledge about my protein. Is my protein elevated because, I mean, is my blood elevated because I'm eating so much protein? I didn't mean to put her on the spot. But see, that's me. I come across the wrong way with some people, I guess. Maybe that's the problem I'm having with my kids. But geez, I just hate to see them eating so much processed garbage.
Hmm. So, how, if someone came to you and said, "Look, I want to get started doing carnivore, give me some advice," what advice would you give them?
My advice would be just go on an elimination diet, pick out a meat and do nothing but that meat for a week and see how you feel, and then start adding back some animals. Um, what people have to understand is that, you know, they have to understand that this is their ticket to health, and it's so easy. I mean, just put the entertainment aside for a week. That's all you got to do for a week. I think even a week of nothing but meat, and you're gonna be like off the charts. You're gonna, wow, how can I feel this good?
Yeah, it's true. You know, you just give it. You just got to get over the hump, though, right? You've
Right.
just got to get over that hump of the cravings, and
Well, that's the thing. Okay, I really believe that once you break your carb addiction, a lot of your addictions just go away. No longer do you crave alcohol or nicotine or even caffeine. It just goes away because you're by, and maybe that is part of these mental problems people are having. They got hot brains going. I mean, there's so many hot little ROSs, zipping around in their brains. They got hot brains. Where if they just back off on the carbs, they chill out and calm down. Because that's what helped me with my tumor, my adrenal tumor. I think by going kind of paleo keto, cutting out the carbs, it calmed me down enough where they could finally diagnose me.
Doug, do you have a way of reaching out to you if people want to get in contact? Do you have any
Um,
social media or anything?
deflow56, DEFLO 56 at gmail.com. That's it. Part of my problem with my adrenal tumor was I had a heck of a time accessing computers and stuff because I was shaking so bad. That's the other thing. My shakes, I'm a little shaky, but nothing like I used to be. I couldn't even hold a cup of coffee. But yeah, I had a real tough time communicating over a computer because, I'd try to put in my password or something and I'd spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes just trying to put in a stupid password because I was shaking so bad.
Wow. So were you a little bit scared at that point thinking, is this Parkinson's or something? Like
Yeah,
that's really scary.
sure. I mean, that's what I used to get from people all the time. But remember, I've shaken all my life. But as I was getting older, once I got into my 60s, the shake got worse and worse. I talked to a couple neurologists, and they had me walk and said, "No, you don't have Parkinson's." And they can tell by how you walk, if you got Parkinson's or not. But I knew it wasn't Parkinson's. But when they said you have an adrenal tumor, I went, "Oh my God." And I just had a funny feeling. And now that it's been removed, I don't shake like I used to. I can access the computer. I'm a little shaky, but I mean, I'm interviewing with you, so of course I'd be shaky, right? but, but no, that was a huge difference. So I really didn't do Facebook or any of that stuff.
No worries. Well, I'll link to your email address below. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story,
Well,
Doug. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate your time.
What caught me was we have to get the word out, just for the simple fact that I feel so much better. And I don't think I'm the exception. I think anybody can do this.